Arthur, Leo, and the journey to the highest peak. Once upon a time, on the banks of the Silver River, in a peaceful forest where giant trees reached up to the sky, lived a large, strong father bear named Arthur and his small, curious cub, Leo. Arthur's roar was the loudest sound in the forest, but when he hugged Leo, his arms felt more comfortable than the softest pillow in the world. Leo loved walking in his father's giant footprints and sitting on his shoulders to watch the world from above. He feared nothing when he was by his father's side. That day was a special day. While eating their favorite honeyberries for breakfast, Arthur shared a big secret with Leo. "Tonight," Arthur said in his deep, warm voice, "there will be a shower of stars in the sky. If we climb to the very top of Whisper Mountain at the end of the forest, we can watch the stars dance." Leo's eyes sparkled with excitement. Whisper Mountain was very far and very high. This was going to be the biggest adventure of Leo's life. In the afternoon, as the sun began to lower, Arthur packed water and snacks into his backpack. Leo placed his favorite toy rabbit into his own tiny bag. They set off. Arthur walked in front, clearing the path with his massive strides. Leo trotted behind him, trying to keep up with his father's big steps. The forest path was flat at first, and sunlight filtered through the leaves. Leo hummed happy songs and wanted to chase every colorful butterfly he saw. Arthur stopped patiently, examining every little flower and bug that caught Leo's attention with him. "No rush, little explorer," Arthur said with a smile. "What matters is not reaching the top, but walking together." After a while, they reached a spot where they had to cross the Silver River. There were large, mossy stones lined up to get across the water. The stones looked wet and slippery. Leo hesitated for a moment. He was afraid to step on those slippery stones with his tiny paws. "Daddy," he said in a quiet voice, "what if I fall? The water is moving so fast." Arthur immediately turned back. He stepped into the water but didn't pick Leo up. Instead, he reached out his huge, warm hand to Leo. "It is very normal to be scared, Leo," he said in a reassuring voice. "But look, I am right here. My hand will hold yours. You just step where I step." Leo held his father's hand tightly. The warmth of that big hand took all his fear away. With Arthur's help, he crossed safely from one stone to another without losing his balance. When they reached the other shore, Leo was very proud that he had done it. As the sun began to set, the forest changed. Shadows grew longer, the trees became denser, and the air turned cool. The evening wind began to whistle through the branches, whoosh, whoosh. Leo thought the trees, which he loved during the day, now looked a bit spooky. He jumped at a snap sound coming from behind a bush and immediately hid behind his father's leg. Arthur stopped right there and slowly knelt down to be at eye level with Leo. "That sound you heard," Arthur whispered, "was just a little squirrel looking for its dinner. And the wind is singing a goodnight song to the trees. Everything looks different in the dark, but don't worry, no shadow can come near you when I am by your side." Arthur's calm explanation turned the spooky sounds of the forest back into familiar nature sounds. Leo came out from his hiding spot, held his father's hand tighter, and continued walking. They had now reached the foot of Whisper Mountain, and the path had started to get steep. Climbing was not like walking on a flat road. Leo's tiny legs soon began to get tired. He was out of breath. He sat down on a rock. "Daddy," he said sadly, "I don't think I can go any further. The peak is too high, and I am too small." He wanted to see the stars so much, but his strength was gone. Arthur smiled and put his backpack on the ground. "You may be small, Leo, but your heart and courage are huge. You did great getting this far." Then Arthur bent down and pointed to his broad shoulders. "Now, it's time to board the most special vehicle in the world, the Daddy Express." Giggling, Leo climbed onto his father's strong shoulders. When Arthur stood up, Leo suddenly rose high enough to see the tops of the trees. As his father's powerful steps climbed the mountain without shaking, Leo felt like he was in the safest place in the world. His father's strength had defeated his fatigue. When they finally reached the peak, it was completely dark. The hilltop was open to the cool winds above the forest, but Arthur picked Leo up and wrapped him in his own warm fur. They sat together on the soft grass and looked up at the sky. Far away from the city lights, the sky looked like black velvet covered in millions of diamonds. And then it began. First one, then another. Silvery streaks of light were gliding across the sky. It was as if the stars were changing places, dancing, and racing each other. Leo's mouth hung open in amazement. "Daddy! Look! There's another one," he shouted excitedly. While watching his son's pure happiness, Arthur was looking at Leo's shining eyes more than the stars. In that moment, in the silence on the peak, there was only the sound of the wind and the beating of two hearts leaning against each other. It was a moment where no words were needed, only love was felt. When the shower of stars ended, Leo's eyelids had begun to grow heavy. The way back was spent fast asleep in his father's arms. Arthur returned to their safe home, carrying his precious cargo carefully. When he tucked Leo into his soft bed and covered him, Leo opened his sleepy eyes. "Daddy," he said with a yawn. The stars were very beautiful. But do you know what the best part was? Arthur leaned in curiously. "What was it, little explorer?" Leo smiled and closed his eyes. "Holding your hand while crossing the river, you hugging me when I was scared in the forest, and you carrying me when I got tired. The best part was walking the path with you." Arthur planted a warm kiss on his son's forehead. That night, Arthur had climbed the highest peak and seen the most beautiful view, but he realized once again that the most precious treasure in the world was his little son sleeping safely in his bed right now. A father's love was higher than the highest mountain, stronger than the darkest forest, and was always there, with every step. Good night.